Today I will share teachings that form the essence of spiritual wisdom, the path to enlightenment and inner peace in this present life. This is a matter of great significance and urgency, as our consciousness must swiftly realize and awaken to this truth. Why is this so? Because our minds are fortunate to reside in this human vessel. Having been born into this human form, we have encountered Buddhism and the Dhamma teachings proclaimed by the Buddha. He stated that the 5 aggregates are non-self, meaning this body, this mind, or the physical and mental elements are not self. When the Buddha pointed this out, he further stated that all Dhammas are also non-self. This means that he pointed to a certain pure nature, that is the original element. This nature exists within all of us. It is the mind, or we may call it the life element. We merely need to refrain from clinging to the physical element, the body, and the mental element, such as sounds, mental images, emotions and perceptions. When we do not cling to these phenomena, only the mind remains empty, pure, and clear. Our mind is the primordial element, the deathless essence. Our mind existed before all things, as stated in the Pali. Mind is the forerunner of all phenomena. Mind is supreme. All is mind-made. This Dhamma element exists before all things. It is sovereign and foundational. Everything is accomplished through this Dhamma element. The Dhamma element creates mental phenomena as tools for conditioning and learning. We can call this the subtle body or mental formations. It creates mental elements to envelop its own Dhamma element to serve as a vehicle. It's like how we are the yolk, creating the white as a membrane to envelop the yolk, and then the white creates a shell to envelop itself in another layer. Similarly, our mind is the Dhamma element, empty, utterly pure, clear enough to permeate infinite universes, one with all things. Our mind neither comes nor goes, neither arises nor ceases, neither dark nor bright, beyond merit and sin, good and evil, wholesome and unwholesome. No conventions exist within the Dhamma element. Due to ignorance, avidya, our mind must create tools for the purpose of fabricating and learning about external nature as well as internal nature, so it can teach itself. This leads the mind, which is inherently pure, to realize that it is a pure element, referred to as oneself is one's own refuge. An analogy is that we are like a child clinging to an adult. When we are born, we depend on adults. If they guide us to do good, we follow them to do good. If they lead us to do evil, we follow them to do evil. We do not know what is good or what is evil. We only know that we rely on them. This represents a mind that has not yet relied on itself, still depending on others as a refuge. Similarly, our mind, being an empty and pure essence, is immensely pure. Yet it creates mental elements as tools for fabrication, referred to as the truth of suffering. The mind, though inherently pure, creates the truth of suffering by fabricating impermanent, unstable states that cannot remain unchanged. Having created this tool, the mind becomes dependent on it and forgets its own true nature. The mind continuously fabricates and learns about external things, never turning inward to study its own nature. It keeps relying on these tools endlessly, as if still searching for an answer. Have we ever asked ourselves why we were born? There's an inner feeling that constantly asks, what is the true purpose of our birth? Yes, we have food to sustain us, but we sense this isn't what we're truly seeking. We seek wealth, recognition, and possessions, yet they are still not what we ultimately desire. Suppose the entire world were given to us, everything. Would we stop striving for something more? Imagine the world is handed over to us entirely, and we become the owner of the whole world. Would we stop searching? we would still have the question, what do we truly want? Suppose we were given the highest, most prestigious ranks and titles, the greatest honors possible, would we stop? Even if all these titles were given to us, we would still feel as though we desire something else. When we gain wealth, it's not enough. When we gain recognition and honor, it's not enough. There's still a search for something. Now imagine we are given all the praise in the world. Everyone on earth praises us. Would we stop? We would still feel that we want something more. It's still not what we truly desire. Now suppose we are given all the happiness we could ever want, every form of happiness possible. Once we have happiness in every way, would we be satisfied? There would still be a feeling of wanting something more. It's still not the true thing we are looking for. This is the nature of the mind. Our minds are learning elements. They want to learn what they truly are. This is why the Buddha taught us to turn inward and awaken within so we can see the truth. I'll give this analogy for now. We are the mind. We are an empty, pure element. In that emptiness there is no language, no self, yet it is us. That very state of having nothing is us. It's like a core of energy, a life element that is incredibly clear and pure, a primordial essence. It creates mental elements as tools for fabrication. The sound I am speaking now is a tool used to fabricate and learn about the nature of the mind. However, have obtained a physical vessel to reside in, which is a form of element, and then rely on the mental element, which is this sound, this mental image, this emotion, this perception. Once we use these tools, we return to learn about various things outside, seeking the form element. Since birth, everyone in this world has been taught to fabricate. Parents teach us to think, to remember, to believe that we are human. At school, they teach us to believe that we are human, that we must seek a living, struggle on this world, think and remember. They teach us to remember, teach us to think, and as we grow up, we seek material elements in this world, seek form elements to satisfy the mental element. Once we obtain the form element, we fabricate on our own that we have acquired it. Once we think we have acquired it, we feel pleased, happy that we have obtained it. Do we observe this? There is us as the thinker, us as the possessor, us as the acquirer, us as the loser, us all the time. While we observe, do we notice? The Buddha said that the five aggregates are non-self, nothing is us or ours. Do we observe this? Therefore, the Buddha pointed out to us that this form element, mental element, is not us. This means that we truly are the empty, pure element. This pure element has no language to say that there is us. This pure element is very pure, with no stories within it. It is extremely pure. It is beyond all fabrications. It surpasses happiness to the utmost. It is free from fabrications, free from the emotion of happiness, free from the emotion of suffering, free from the emotion of neutrality, free from the emotion of calmness, free from sound, free from mental images, free from perception. Our mind is the original element. It creates the mental element, and then the mental element creates the form element. The mind clings to the mental element and then clings to the form element, like a small child clinging to parents. We cling, we rely, they will lead us. We go wherever he goes. He will lead us to good, to bad, to high, to low. We go with him completely. We never know ourselves, and we don't know how to rely on ourselves because we don't know us. Like a clear element that blends with everything. When darkness comes, it blends with that darkness. We will only see darkness, but in the darkness, there is a clear element. This clear element has no form. It cannot be known through the senses. but it can be known through the mind. It's like when we look at our phone now, we immediately see the phone, but we cannot see between the phone and the eye. There is emptiness there. We cannot see the clear emptiness, but we know there is clear emptiness here. It is known through the mind, because our mind is a clear empty element, the same substance as the clear emptiness throughout the infinite universe. Another analogy: if we erase the universe completely, erase all stars, erase all suns, erase all black holes, erase all stardust, even erase darkness and light, only clear emptiness will remain. There is no distance there, no time. Wherever you are, it is the same place. Everything is connected. Wherever you are is the center. Time exists because of mental and physical elements. Without these, only empty clarity remains. The Nibbana element, or our own mind, one in all in one. The Buddha knew all things because his mind was all things. Our minds too can know all the same. The key point is that I'm showing how the five aggregates are not self, seeing how physical and mental elements are not us. This sound being spoken isn't truly sound. No one is speaking and no one is listening. There are only mental elements rippling at certain conditions, appearing in empty clarity, then dissolving back into empty clarity. The Buddha pointed out that mental elements have no self. They are anatta. This is what the Dhamma is about. It's like a child clinging to parents. While the child clings, if only the parents would teach, "My child, you need not cling to us. You are the primordial element. You need no food, need nothing. We are merely physical and mental elements, appearing then dissolving ultimately, unable to be grasped. You are the deathless element. Don't cling to us. We exist under the law of three characteristics, naturally appearing and dissolving constantly." Just by understanding that the child needs nothing, existing beyond physical and mental elements. When the child realizes they are the pure element, seeing parents as merely physical and mental elements, the child stops relying on these elements and returns to being the original pure Dhamma element. Thus our minds are freed from the cycle of existence. Our mind creates mental elements due to avijja, ignorance, as stated in Pali. With ignorance as condition, formations arise. We study Dhamma to understand the mind's nature, to dissolve ignorance. For ignorance is not knowing. When we don't know, we must come to know. This is what the Dhamma is about. When the mind awakens to understand itself as a pure element, this physical element is not us. The mental element that is speaking is not us either. It's a relief. How could it not be if it's not us? This voice is not us. Whatever is spoken, it's not us, and it has no self. Whether it's the voice of a dog, a person, or any other sound, whether positive or negative, it is merely. Sound is the vibration of the mind, called name element. Whoever sees it this way is not suffering with sound. Because it is merely a mental element, namadhatu, it arises and then dissipates. For example, if a sound strikes and says little duck, the sound disappears. If it says little pig, the sound disappears. If it says good person or scoundrel, the sound disappears. Whatever is said is just a sound. This sound is a mental element. I need to point out for everyone to understand the mental element, because our mind is an empty, pure essence. Whether we are children, elderly, disabled, women or men, everyone can attain the Dhamma 100%, because we are all the mind. In the Buddha's time, the Buddha would speak, and those who listened and inclined their understanding would immediately realize the truth. Ping, enlightenment, done. The Buddha pointed out that the five aggregates are entirely non-self, not self. Similarly, I'm saying that this physical body arises because of the mental element. The sound I am speaking now says we are men, so men arise. This is the left arm. The phrase, this is the left arm, arises. Whenever we go along with the meaning of the sound, stories arise instantly and emotions follow. We are merely deluded by this mental element, just this much. The key is to awaken inwardly. The moment we see this mental element, it's over. If we simply realize, right now I am thinking, this sound is not me. It fabricates itself, it speaks on its own. So, where am I? If we understand this, the mind will detach from the mental element. Done. It detaches from the mental element. Done. Even in what you are aware of now, you hear my voice now. Observe it. The sound impacts our mind itself. And where is the sound? Our mind ripples to perceive the sound itself. And where is it? The perception has no form. Can you see that no one owns it? This phenomenon appears and dissolves on its own. Accept this truth with the mind. When the mind accepts this truth, the Buddha nature arises. The mind will detach from the mental elements. The mind will not arise again. Just for this reason. In practicing Dhamma, no matter how much money we spend to buy the path, fruit and nirvana, or how much merit we buy, in the end, if we do not see the mental elements as non-self, everything is worthless. The voice that speaks is not us. No one owns it. It is just a sound. Mental images are the same. Whether the images we imagine are positive or negative, they are just images, just mental elements, just manifestations of the mind. Emotions are the same. Whether our emotions are happy, sad, neutral, or calm, they are just mental elements, just manifestations. Even the perception that is aware, it knows on its own. It appears on its own and dissolves on its own. The point is, where are we? Let the mind answer. If the mind answers, there is no us. Whenever the Buddha nature arises, it bursts forth. The Buddha just pointed out that mental and physical elements do not need attention because physical elements arise, because mental elements give value. This is the left arm. The right arm arises because this voice speaks. Look at it. This voice is the one speaking. Mental elements constantly give value. Can you understand? It's that simple. Dhamma is always present with us. It constantly shows non-self. It's called seeing Dhamma in Dhamma. Non-self is constantly displayed before our eyes. Practicing Dhamma must see non-self in mental elements which appear in the present moment, right now. The voice that is spoken is not a real voice. It is just something, and no one is hearing it. It knows itself. This voice impacts itself and then dissolves by itself. Can you see if it needs to do anything? All nature appears and dissolves by itself. Dhamma is about awakening within, not about sending the mind outward. No matter where we take the body to practice, in any form, that is called sending the mind outward. For example, memorizing text, reading text, or carrying as much knowledge as possible. That is also called sending the mind outward. What is sending the mind outward? Sending the mind outward is the mind that flows to cling to the name element, such as clinging to sound, believing that this sound is real, has a real owner, or believing that we are the speaker, the thinker, the one with emotions, the knower. This is the mind that sends outward to cling to the name element. When the mind values the form element, that we are male, female, have parents, relatives, property, house, car, that is the mind that sends outward entirely. Then we think we must take the body to practice in the forest, in the temple, that is also sending the mind outward. Dhamma is not in the forest, not with anyone, not with the body or anything in this world. Dhamma is about seeing all nature as ownerless, seeing that this sound is without self, not us, not ours, not anyone's. When understood like this, the mind will awaken within, will see its own nature, that this sound, this mental image, this emotion, this perception, if it is not us, then where are we? When the mind accepts that there is no us, enlightenment will arise suddenly. The mind will be bright, clear, and will see what this clear, empty element is. Why is there no us? There is nothing, but it knows everything. We will know that this is the Dhamma element, this is the pure element. When the mind reaches purity, that is, it knows itself, it stops relying on the name element. That's all. Dhamma is a simple matter, not difficult at all. Don't forget that if the five aggregates are non-self, only the pure element remains, which already exists in our mind. Our mind is naturally a pure element. It is the original foundation. Our mind creates mental formations, which are name elements, and then embellishes and clings to form elements. The Buddha said that form elements and name elements are not us. If they are not us, then what remains? Only the original element remains, only the mind, which is a pure element. We don't need to practice to gain anything, because in essence, we are empty, pure elements with nothing in them. There has been no us from the beginning. There has been no us from the beginning. There are only name elements that constantly ripple, giving value to form elements. There are only name elements constantly embellishing that we are in hell now, embellishing that we are suffering now, embellishing that we are male or female now, embellishing that we are in the heavenly world or the Brahma world now, embellishing that we are practicing Dhamma now. Name elements ripple, embellishing that there is greed, anger, delusion, morality, mindfulness, concentration, wisdom, embellishing that there is this world, that we are human. Do we see these name elements? These name elements that ripple and embellish are without self, without owner, merely a condition of the mind, merely an action of the mind. There is no us in the nature of name elements and form elements. That's why the Buddha said the five aggregates are non-self. Name elements and form elements are non-self. Another analogy. The mind is the original empty pure element, deceived by ignorance. Let's say it has ignorance as a tangible entity that has deceived all minds that we have free name elements for all of you. You are pure, empty, pure elements. There is nothing here. It is meaningless. We have a name element. We have tools to embellish for you. We have sound, imagery, emotions, perception, and memory, called the name element or mental formations. We have this tool with symptoms to give to you. All minds, whoever wants can take it for free. Whoever wants the name element can take it for free. Once you wear the subtle body of this name element, you can embellish everything. You will perceive, think, imagine, have emotions, and have memory. Once you have this name element, you can embellish it to the form element. Then you will have the form you desire for free. All minds who want to be born in the name element, born in the form element, we are ignorant. We will create these tools for all minds. How are we? We are minds which are empty, pure elements. Upon hearing this, we are happy and content. Then we join in, asking for the name element, which is the subtle body to wear. Asking for the name element, all minds flock to ask for the name element from ignorance. Ignorance says, come, it's free. All name elements are free. Minds which are empty, pure elements, are radiant elements, void elements, immortal elements, eternal elements, Foolish because deceived by ignorance, we come to take the name element that ignorance created, to wear as a suit called the subtle body. Once having the subtle body, we are happy. We all become ignorant minds because we are deceived by ignorance to take free things. We like free things, so we rely on these free things. Sound is free, imagery is free, emotions are free, all perceptions are free. Once we have free things, we embellish and possess these free things. Possessing happy emotions, we enjoy in good realms. Possessing suffering emotions, we enjoy in bad realms. Fabricating and assigning value and meaning, such as happiness is like this, or suffering is like this. Imagining mental images without shape or form as desired, it becomes a subtle body that exists and spreads across small and large realms. It then manifests as a coarse body, a physical element, and claims itself as human, a free gift. This body is free. Do we like free things? Already a pure element, but it is ignored. Instead, there is delusion in fabricating because it is free. Becoming deluded by fabricating, clinging and attaching to the mental element, which is free. Then, relying on this free element, it continues to fabricate and claim the physical element, this body, saying, I am human. Relying on this voice to declare, I am human, I am a woman, I am a man, I am truly human, these are truly my parents. The mind never had parents. It is an empty, pure element. Yet it becomes deluded in the dimension of the mental element, and then relies on the mental element to fabricate and claim the physical element further. Samsara begins when the mind depends on the mental element. That is where samsara arises. The cycle of fabrication starts spinning, like a wheel that turns endlessly, caught in the cycle of fabricating happiness and suffering. It arises and dissolves at every moment of the mind, known as the mind being born into the realm of fabrication at every moment. When it gains a body, it becomes water-dwelling creatures, countless in number. It becomes land-dwelling creatures, countless in number. It becomes underground creatures, countless in number. It becomes winged creatures, countless in number. Are we drawn to things that appear free? When this physical vessel reaches its end, why does our consciousness drift, seeking a new form? It is because the mind, in its ignorance, constantly seeks what seems freely given. Just like our attraction to free things, this reflects a deeper pattern. The first outward wandering of mind occurs when we become lost in mental phenomena. The second happens when we become entangled in physical form. The third occurs when we grasp and fabricate meanings around external forms. Finally, the mind projects outward by creating judgments of good and evil, merit and demerit, wholesome and unwholesome within these physical forms. This is how consciousness continues its outward journey. Step 4. From waking to sleeping, the mind is sent outward all the time. Even while walking meditation, the mind is sent outward, taking the body to walk because it believes there is a body, taking the body to sit because it believes there is a body, taking the body to a secluded place in the forest or mountains because it believes there is a forest, mountains, and a body. It has never seen non-self. When giving alms, it is done with attachment and clinging, under the influence of avijja, not knowing. Observing precepts is also being deluded by the mental element, deluded by fabricating and believing, I am someone with virtue by wearing this particular color. They have no idea what virtue truly is. Virtue is the natural state of the mind that is awakened inwardly, not foolishly clinging to the mental element. That is virtue. But nowadays people flow along with the mental element, flow along with the physical element, and believe, I am human, I am observing precepts, so I must wear white, otherwise it's not virtuous. I must be in this specific place, stay still, and eat little, that will be virtue. If a bedridden disabled person eats little, do they have virtue? Sentient beings fabricate conventions, playing with the mental element and the physical element, believing this way brings great merit. This way is Dhamma practice. This way will lead to path and fruition. And we think this is correct according to the principles. It turns out that some have studied Dhamma for 80 years and still use money to buy merit. After studying Dhamma for 80 years, what have they gained? Nothing. They haven't grasped the essence of Dhamma. They can't even explain the mind. What is the mind? They don't know. How does consciousness cycle through samsara? Let me explain this clearly. Why does it happen this way? What is the nature of samsara? How do the three realms of existence arise? Where do physical elements come from? Where do mental elements originate? How can we understand that these physical and mental elements are not our true self? Let me explain. Even as we speak now, this is a mental element. The inner voice that constantly speaks within us, or the sounds we produce, the continuous stream of thoughts, these are all mental elements. Whether thinking silently or expressing outwardly, these are mental elements. Whatever emotional state arises, it is a mental element. Even states of happiness and joy, all of these are simply mental elements. There will be a state of tranquility, that is the mental element. What we know is also the mental element. Do you hear the sound? It hears by itself. It knows by itself. Where are we? Let the mind answer. Don't use your brain. Dhamma is not about thinking or memorizing with the brain. Dhamma is about the awakened mind, known as the foundation of mindfulness. Therefore, anyone who listens to my Dhamma, which causes realization of Dhamma, should remember this. When the Buddha spoke, anyone who listened and understood attained realization immediately. He pointed to only the anatta in the five aggregates. I also talk about the mind, about the mental element, to show that it is anatta non-self. Dhamma is about seeing Dhamma within Dhamma, meaning seeing non-self in the conditioned states. Once you see that the mental element is non-self, the mind will detach from the mental element. The Buddha nature will arise, it will emerge, and then we will know that we are not a person. We are the empty, clear, and pure element. When it is able to detach, wisdom will arise and become bright. This brightness is the brightness of wisdom and the nature of the element. It will be crystal clear. Those without insight will not be able to see this. But you must make a firm resolution, a vow, to dismantle all the mental attachments, to take the place of the Father, and make a vow every day. You must listen to my tapes for at least 1 month without skipping, and then you will be free from suffering, and we will not be born again. Definitely. 1,000,000%. We will see the mind and the spirit that are wandering in samsara, and how they can break free from it. We will see this because I and my team dismantle it every day. We will see how our minds are pure and clear, and how the minds of sentient beings are blinded. Those who have not attained Dhamma will not be able to understand this Dhamma. Let me mention this briefly. Today, sentient beings are very deluded. We practitioners, I will call us practitioners of reversal, go memorize scriptures but never truly understand. I'll call us practitioners of reversal then, memorizing scriptures but never encountering a noble person, never attaining Buddha nature. We are just ordinary people, pretending to understand the knowledge of the Buddha, pretending to understand the knowledge of those who have attained enlightenment. Look at sentient beings, still deluded by the mental element, still clinging to the mental element, still clinging to the physical element. This is the nature of sentient beings, completely blind. They rely on this sound, on mental images, on emotions, on sensations, and on this body, but they do not realize that this is not us. They rely on it every moment, relying on the brain to think, think in order to gain or understand. But Dhamma is about freedom from thought. It is vimutti, liberation from conceptual thinking. Sentient beings cannot understand vimutti because they are still relying on concepts. In vimutti, there is no reliance on concepts. In vimutti, there is no reliance on this sound, no reliance on mental images, no reliance on emotions, no reliance on the sensory experience. It works by its own nature. It radiates purity by its own nature. This is for those who wish to dismantle the delusions of sentient beings. There will be a continuous radiating of wisdom, continuously transmitting from mind to mind. This is what I am doing, transmitting from mind to mind all the time. But we mistakenly believe that I am speaking Dhamma, and this is the sound. We think we are listening. This is the nature of sentient beings. They rely on seeing, touching, hearing, smelling, and tasting in order to make meaning, to say, now I am teaching Dhamma, now I am speaking Dhamma, I am a person, and we are people listening to Dhamma. This is sentient beings. This is their way of knowing. They rely on concepts to create understanding. Sentient beings do not see that this is the transmission from mind to mind, the wave of wisdom being shared with our minds. They do not see it. Therefore, they must practice to develop insight in order to see it. Let me explain the 4 types of arahant attainment. Sukha vipassaka, one who attains liberation but is spiritually blind, no special powers, sees nothing extraordinary. Many who achieve this level are blind in this way. Yet they have no doubts. Even with the Buddha before them, they wouldn't question, for from waking to sleep, they see with every moment of consciousness that the mind does not arise. Tevijo gains 2 additional powers. The 3rd power isn't mentioned as it leads to enlightenment itself. This is called the triple knowledge. Speaking according to scripture, the mind becomes more refined at this level. Chalabinyo possesses 6 kinds of higher knowledge, can perceive others' minds, see subtle bodies. This level is excellent. One should strive to help liberate all beings from the cycle of existence. But can they succeed? Not yet. The wisdom is still insufficient. Patisambhida jnana, complete understanding in all aspects. Like the Tipitaka itself, our mind becomes the Tipitaka, knowing and able to explain everything. Does this exist in our world? Yes. Seek to find it. Are there levels beyond these 4? Yes, the level of Buddha mind, born only to liberate, far more refined than these. As ordinary beings, we cannot comprehend even a stream enterer's understanding. We speak different languages. A stream enterer has already released attachment to physical elements, sees mental elements, grasps the principle that thoughts create physical elements, the mental element giving meaning to physical elements. They understand this completely. An ordinary person can't even understand someone who has concentration, so there's no need to talk about it. Even the person with the highest concentration cannot understand a sotapanna, stream enterer. A sotapanna just grasps the basic truth. They see that the mental element assigns value to the physical element, and through seeing this, they let go of attachment to the physical element. The mind lets go. The mind knows with full clarity, it breaks free. The Buddha is in front of them, but they do not ask if they are doing right or wrong. They do not ask at all. When the Buddha is in front of them, they do not ask because they see clearly that this is the way to Bangkok. To illustrate, the Sotapanna is like someone who has been traveling to find their way to Bangkok for a long time. Finally, after walking, they find a road with a sign saying 400 kilometers to Bangkok. When they see this sign clearly, they cry with joy because they now know they are on the right path. This is the Buddha nature. This is when they grasp the truth. They have let go of the stream. Even with the Buddha in front of them, they do not ask. Whoever says they are right or wrong doesn't matter. It fills their heart completely. It's like eating rice. When eating rice, you will feel the deliciousness of it. You will feel the food going into your stomach. You will feel the need to eat until you are full. When you realize this, when you are satisfied with putting food in your mouth, chewing and swallowing it, and then feeling that fullness, you will continue eating until you are full. Anyone who can feel this is someone who has the eye of wisdom, someone who can see the nature of eating. They understand what it feels like when the rice enters the stomach. On the other hand, anyone who has never eaten rice and doesn't know what it's like will never understand. Another analogy: no matter how skilled we become in learning to fly a plane, we may understand that the airplane is like this, and the flying process is like that. But if we have never sat in the cockpit, never started the engine, never taken control of the plane to make it move and take off, we will never understand what it truly means to fly a plane. Until we reach the point of actually flying the plane, we cannot talk about it. Still in the dark, still unable to grasp the principle. Dhamma is like that. Dhamma is about the mind, which is the element of emptiness, clear and pure. It is ignorant. It is ignorance itself. That is ignorance. The mind itself is ignorance. It is an extremely pure element, but that purity is the substance of ignorance. That's all. It has created something for free. I'll use an analogy. Ignorance tells all minds, there is something for free. We have the element of name. Come and wear it as a subtle body. You will be able to think, to imagine, to have emotions, to have perceptions, and you will have memory and knowing. We really like free things. We don't like to stay in the pure, clear nirvana element, because it's the ignorant mind that doesn't know it needs to learn. No problem. I'm just explaining it to you so we can return home. I have the duty to take all of you back home. Right now, we are sending our minds outward, out of the house. We are going to create the element of name and wear it, just like we go looking for a spouse or a family outside. We've forgotten that at home we have everything. Everything is complete. We don't need to go searching or struggling for anything, but we want to learn. That's called ignorance, the ignorance of not knowing. In truth, how do you solve ignorance? You just know it. If you don't know, then know it. The mind doesn't know, so it creates mental formations. How to solve it? Just wake up. Know that mental formations are not you. They are not self. That's it. The mind will no longer foolishly create or cling to mental formations. This is the simplicity. Dharma is simple. It's not hard. Dharma is easy. Now I'll use this analogy. Ignorance says, "O mind, all of you in the infinite universe, the minds come and wear the element of name. We will give out the element of name for free. Come and wear this suit." Every mind which was shapeless comes and wears the suit, just like a soap bubble. It wraps itself up, turning into a subtle body. Now it can perceive, it can create. Once it has the element of name, it floats off to seek the element of form. The next step is to find the element of form. It floats off to find the element of form. When the form body, this body, decays, expires, Or even if it doesn't expire, it breaks down before its time due to karmic results. The mind floats off to seek a new element of form. Once it has a new element of form, it holds on to it, saying, I am this animal, a water animal, a land animal, an underground animal, a bird, a two-legged creature. It holds on to the belief that it is this creature, that it is a man, a woman, good, bad, right, wrong, merit, demerit, giving great value to these labels. It continues to create. Dear mind, you have obtained a body, which is also for free. You have obtained the free element of name, so you wander and create. Because you have the free element of name, you move, creating the cycle of samsara. The cycle of formation spins and spins. It forms in the direction of happiness, which is called sukha, happiness, or in the direction of suffering, called dukkha, suffering. When you practice like this, you experience happiness. When you practice like that, you experience suffering. Do you know what you are playing with? You are playing with something for free, playing with the element of name. Do you know? When you acquire a body, you think it is your body. You have parents, relatives, siblings. Then when this body decays, you acquire a new body, as an animal, as a human, as a living being. Then what? Where do your parents and relatives go? You forget and acquire new parents and relatives. When the body decays, you are reborn again with new parents, new relatives. The vessel, the body, decays, and you find a new vessel with new parents and relatives again. Do you like free things, O sentient beings? These beings think they are clever. These beings say, I am the best. I graduated the highest. I am the most intelligent. I have the most knowledge. I have the greatest virtue. I have the most wealth. I have the highest status. I am the greatest. I am the head of the family. I am good at practicing the Dhamma. I am good at keeping the precepts. I am good at generosity. I am good at mindfulness. I am good at concentration. I am good at wisdom. They are all just creating in the world of the element of name, holding on to the belief that they have the element of form, and they deem themselves important for being good at everything. Then they say, I have attained enlightenment. A person who truly understands the Dharma doesn't just memorize it and teach it, not yet proclaiming the Dharma that arises from a mind that is enlightened. A person who has attained enlightenment must speak the Dharma from the mind, not from memorized texts. They can explain the mind as follows. Initially, the mind is a clear, pure, empty element, merging with the entire infinite universe. It is already everything at the very beginning, so the elements of matter emerge. Living beings form elements, and name elements come into existence. The various minds then rely on these, creating name elements and living in the form elements of the material world that arise in the vast infinite universe. Then they become deluded, holding on to the belief that they are different types of animals, and eventually humans. All of this is still the same as being an animal. The importance is in having family, relatives, children, parents, grandparents, enemies, friends, loved ones, and haters binding each other. When this body decays, it is reborn into another new animal body. We then become deluded again, thinking we have family, acquaintances, parents, relatives, children, friends, enemies, and lovers, just as before. Then we are reborn, and once again we are deluded into thinking we are that animal, entranced by the form element, which is free, and entranced by the name element, which is also free. This leads to the constant cycle of samsara. The Buddha came to tell us that the form element and name element are not us. O sentient beings, return home. Do not cling to the belief that the form element is us. Do not cling to the belief that the name element is us. The sound is not us. The mental image is not us. The emotions are not us. The perceptive reactions are not us. All understandings are not us. Some may listen and say, "Ah, I understand," but understanding is not us. Look carefully. This is merely a process of conditioning. If we truly understand, we will cry. Then the mind will break free from the notion of being a person. It will break free and clearly see that the mind does not arise in this way. It is like we have broken free from the sound, seeing that this sound is not us, clearly recognizing that it is not us, and that it does not even have sound. It is simply something unknown, vibrating. This is the transmission from mind to mind, transmitting to our minds. We just listen and align our minds without thinking or remembering, listening to this Dharma every day. I have refined it into the finest food for us to simply take into our mouths. Our minds will understand it naturally. I have condensed all the knowledge to make it as simple as possible, so that our minds can easily absorb it. We do not need to want to understand. Just leave all the principles behind. Be like an ox, be like a worm. No need for a brain, no need to use the mind, just use the mind. This Dharma is called the transmission from mind to mind. It is the condensation of all the knowledge in Buddhism into the essence, into a delicious food for us to absorb. Those who align their minds with it absorb it with firm resolve that they will not be reborn. These people will bring this knowledge into themselves and contemplate. They will see that this sound is not really us, that the mental image is not really us, that the emotion is not really us. The act of knowing is just knowing itself. Why do we suffer from these things? We will cry, our tears will fall, and it will burst open, clear and bright, and everything will feel light and open. It will break free from being a person, and we will cry. We will see that this is the pure nature of the Dharma. How did the Buddha know that he had attained enlightenment? How could he know? Because there was no us left in it. There was only the purest clarity. Once realized, you want to proclaim it and tell the world, "O human beings, sentient beings, those who still mistakenly believe they understand the Dharma, if you really understood, you would come to tear down the beings and remove their suffering. You would not boast or show off. You would only come to radiate the pure knowledge to everyone." Dharma is easy. It's just that the mind is not foolish enough to cling to the name element. That's it, simple. Where is the difficulty? The difficulty lies in ignorance, because the mind does not know. The mind creates the name element, creates mental formations. That's all. Then it clings to the mental formations, clings to the name element. Just know this. The mental formations, the name element, are not us. Why rely on them? When the mind no longer foolishly relies on these elements, it becomes free. Clinging crumbles away. Ignorance transforms into the clear knowing that we are truly the pure element. The mind realizes its nature as the pure element. It no longer foolishly clings or relies on tools. The mind created tools to contain mental elements. Now, the mind no longer foolishly clings, deludes, or relies on mental elements. The mind returns to its original pure Dhamma element, endowed with wisdom's understanding. This is how one truly becomes one's own refuge. Attahi attanonato. After this, the mind radiates this wisdom's understanding, this ultimate brightness and clarity, spreading vastly as we know how luminous is the Buddha's mind. As a simile, the Buddha's mind is like the universe. His mind's clarity encompasses the cosmos. Meanwhile, our minds are tiny fragments, without light, darker than a candle. Are we even like fireflies? We're not even that bright. The fruit of arahantship is like a candle, that's its limit, but the Buddha is like the universe itself. Look at the brightness of the wisdom of the Buddha. What is the wisdom? The wisdom is the knowledge that encompasses all the aggregates, the realization that everything is not self, even the knowledge of the Buddha's nature, of being this pure Dharma element, is also anatta. No matter how refined the knowledge is, it is all within the framework of non-self. All of it is natural and belongs to its own nature. Therefore, we all are just lost in the free things. I am here to point out that this suffering arises freely. This body too is freely given. The body will age, become ill, and dissolve. We shouldn't suffer over it because it is freely given. Do you understand? Imagine if we received 5 cars for free. If all 5 cars were destroyed by a flood, why should we grieve? They were free. Understand, if we're given a house in this world for free and this house is foreclosed by the bank, why should we grieve? It was free. Understand? All material elements in this world are free, created by this world. This body too is freely given, created by this world. It's not ours, nor is it anyone's. Return all these natural phenomena back to nature. Let them fulfill their function. Don't cling to what's freely given. Do you like free things? Do you want a self? Know that in the Nibbana element, in our Dhamma element, there is neither form nor name. It is the purity that is the primordial element, creating all things. It's called Paramam Sukham, beyond happiness. Parama means supreme. It transcends happiness, yet is greater than happiness. It's not happiness born of pleasant feeling, but happiness born of wisdom that has freed itself from physical and mental elements. It's a happiness beyond worldly happiness. Even Brahma realms are still conditioned happiness. If we like meditation for conditioned states, but in the Nibbana element, in the Dhamma element of the mind that has realized and been freed, it's not happiness as the world knows it. It's happiness born of liberation. And there's no holding on to this happiness either. There's nothing there except the pure Dhamma element. It has everything, yet everything there is purity. This is truly ultimate. No wonder how the Buddha knew he was enlightened. How could he not know? Just as we know when we're full after eating, that's how the Buddha knew. Why be surprised? The Buddha was supreme because he removed all without remainder. So from now on, let us remove these burdens, these mental elements freely given, this sound, these mental images, these emotions, this awareness, these perceptions. They are all freely given. Let them all go. The sound of my speaking has no true self. Don't foolishly cling to it. If anyone still clings to this sound, they remain in difficulty. Let us see how this sound creates the cycle of existence, creates everything. Don't foolishly rely on these mental elements. They are mere ripples, intangible, without self. Can you see how sound has no self? Mental elements have no self. Can you see how emotions have no self? No one owns this sound. No one owns these mental images. No one owns these emotions. No one owns this awareness. See how it knows by itself, forms by itself. These are free phenomena we temporarily use, simply to remove our burdens, nothing more. Don't foolishly cling to them. Let us now declare our intention to remove these burdens. Let us declare this often. Let us make this resolution, with all Buddhas as witness. Imagine millions of Buddhas present before us. Bow to them, raise your hands in respect. From this moment forward, I will diligently listen to this teaching. I will be mindful of mind, watching thoughts, emotions, and awareness as natural phenomena. I will not foolishly cling to thoughts, emotions, or these conditions absolutely, for these things are suffering, are the cycle of existence, are birth. I will not be born again. This will be my final birth. After realizing this truth, I will teach and show everyone, encouraging all to diligently listen to this teaching. I will point others to this teaching, so none will be reborn, teaching children and reaching everyone I know. Let all awaken within. Don't foolishly cling to thoughts, mental images, emotions, or this awareness, for all these are suffering, are the cycle of existence, our birth. We shall not be born again. This will be our final birth. Let this understanding spread across infinite universes, freeing all minds. May all consciousness throughout infinite universes, across the three realms, in every particle and element, know this. From now on, we will guide all to awakening. May all establish the truth of Buddha mind, uniting in this original understanding, removing all burdens together. Wherever you are bound by spells, dark magic, energy, or forces, by whatever truth, hatred, or ignorance, may all these dissolve completely. May you release thoughts, mental images, emotions, awareness, perceptions, and memories. Release all mental elements, for these are suffering, are the cycle of existence, our birth. They have bound us for so long through ignorance. Realize this truth. Come be Buddha mind as one, removing burdens together. For any karma where I and all beings, all minds, all particles and elements have wronged karmic creditors in the past, wronged each other, we ask forgiveness and acknowledge our mistakes. From now on, our Buddha nature will fulfill the Father Buddha's role, removing all burdens completely, allowing no mind to cycle in existence again. The cycle ends in this era. May all karmic creditors rejoice in this merit. May all these merits be fulfilled for the karmic debtors. I ask you all to release your anger and hatred, release your thoughts, release your mental images, release your emotions, release your perceptions and memories. These things are suffering. They are the cycle of samsara. They are birth. They have imprisoned us for a long time. I ask you to awaken to this truth. Come, become the Buddha mind, unite as one in this knowledge, and dismantle the animal nature together. I will proclaim this understanding every day, every moment, until it becomes automatic in this mind, offered as devotion to all perfectly enlightened ones. From now on, I will fulfill your role, the role of all Buddhas. I will remove all without remainder. I was not born for anything else but to remove all completely. This truth element will not change until the last mind is freed from the cycle. Nothing is impossible. What others won't do, I will do myself. This is Buddhism. This is the only way to repay the kindness of all Buddhas. Are we brave enough to proclaim this teaching? Let everyone proclaim this teaching and follow through with truth. Don't be selfish. Don't think there is a self. Return these freely given physical and mental elements. Don't foolishly cling. We will not be born again. Let this be the conclusion. May all of us who have firmly resolved not to be reborn, who aim for enlightenment, who take non-self as refuge, may we all quickly realize and attain the truth. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. With all Buddhas as witness, from this moment forward, I will diligently listen to this teaching. I will be inwardly awake, seeing thoughts, emotions, and awareness as natural phenomena, not self, not mine. I will not cling to any condition. I will not be born again. This birth will be the last. When I realize the truth, I will teach descendants and acquaintances to be inwardly awake, not to be lost in thoughts and emotions until my last breath as offering to the Buddha. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.